All right, here's an overview of the engine bay. Mostly stock. A few things that aren't stock. This wire right here, this is a battery tender. It's an expensive battery, so you want to take care of it. I recommend, especially for a car that's not driven often, having something to take care of the battery. It's original CIS injection. I didn't check the pressures specifically for this sale, but it's prudent to check them regularly. I do it annually. I did it last fall, and there's 4 pressures to check. The system pressure should be around 70. The residual pressure should, so when you turn the car off and the pump stops, it should stay around 40 for, I forget how long, maybe 20 minutes or so, and that's fine. And then the warm-up regulator, this thing here is what controls how the car runs when it's cold and when it's warm. So when you see people noting that the car runs or stumbles when it's cold or warm, it's because one of those pressures is likely off. So cold pressure should be around 25. It makes the car a little bit richer until it warms up. And then when it's warm, it should be around 50, depending on the temperature, the ambient temperature. So those are all in the spec. The alternator is relatively new, I think within the past 5 years or so. The valve cover, you need to be able to remove it and put it back easily to check the valve lash. Stock gasket is cork and is a little bit challenging to seal completely, so a lot of these cars drip oil. There's an upgraded rubber gasket that you can use or reuse reliably, so that's not stock. It has the rubber gasket. And then the other thing that keeps the engine bay a little bit cleaner is to cover the cam shaft with a plastic cover from a later car. So this car has that. That's not stock either. You should be able to see the cam lobe, but you can't because there's this plastic cover. The stock exhaust manifold on these cars is a log style and is restrictive, so sometimes people swap to an earlier European style dual downpipe manifold setup, which this car has, along with the correct flex pipe under the car, and that all needs to be bracketed to the engine block and the transmission to keep it still, keep it from cracking, and that is present. All the fluids up to date, brake fluid, radiator, coolant. It's all oil change. That's all up to date. Other little modifications. The car, when it's cold, will tend to have dash buzzes and things, and that's because this engine mount is known to be a bit frail, and it's prudent to reinforce it, which this car has. So until the rubber warms up, the mount is stiffer than OEM. That's sort of considered a reasonable price to pay for reliability. So that should be durable, but until the car is warm, when I do a drive video, we'll be able to see that. These strut mounts, the early cars had a particular design that's very, very durable. The later cars, which this is one of them, had this unreliable design, and there's a couple of known fixes for that. You can either reinforce the rubber with windshield urethane or reinforce it with an opal exhaust hanger, and this car has the opal exhaust hanger modification, so this gap will not spread, which is the sign of failure that you look for. These will not spread ever. But not, so that's a modification. That is correct. That's a piece of asphalt. I don't know what you call it, bitumen. And then it gets this cosmoline goop all over it. So that doesn't represent any particular problem. It's just the way these cars are. And the trunk has the same stuff on the floor. And of course, the paint doesn't stick to it very well. So it peels off like that. That's just normal. The paint in the engine bay, there's touch-ups. None come to mind right now, but just from years of working on the car, various people working on the car, there's touch-ups everywhere. The battery tray is solid. I did put touch-up paint on there just to keep, where the battery rests. It rubs through the paint, and then you get acid on the metal. So there's touch-ups there. A couple of these rivets were broken, so I found the correct ones and was able to replace them. Sometimes you see bolts here, but I think it's better to have the correct rivets. One of these plastic things was broken, if I remember. I think it was on this car, so I had to get another one riveted on. Everything works. Windshield washer. This intake setup, this intake hose, this is a preheat hose, is often missing, so that's there. This is the cold air intake. This is frequently cracked or missing, so that's present. That's a true cold air intake, as opposed to what is frequently sold as a cold air intake, but actually draws air from the hot engine bay, which never made sense to me. So that's all present like it should be. I don't remember when I put the air filter in, but I've only put 6,000 miles on since I had the car, so that'll be fine. While I'm thinking of it, that wing on the windshield wiper, that's specific to GTI, it's to keep the windshield wiper from flopping around. When you're going fast, that frequently gets loose. But this one's fine. Again, make sure they don't, make sure it doesn't rattle. Sorry about the bad camera work. I can't think of anything else in the engine bay. If I missed anything, let me know.